welcome everyone. It's Martin from Gnome Support. Later on, I'll be introducing Karen, who will be helping with the Q&A afterwards. Speaking of which, what I want to do is just bring your attention to this little screenshot. If you want to ask any questions, here's the Q&A tab that you need, and you can put your questions in here. Because of a slight time delay, what we're going to say is that when we get to the end, we're going to stop taking the questions. So please put any questions in there. And up until the point I say, Karen, do we have any questions? Then that's when we'll stop taking new questions in. Okay, so that said, what we'll be doing today. Right, well, this is the project that we'll be having a look at. We're going to be looking at the floating tooltip here and bringing in a web page within the player. This was something that was asked last time in our Polygon Hotspots webinar. We'll also be doing things like the slide-in info boxes. This is working with polygons and point hotspots. And of course, I think the big one is the mouse over effect to enter and leave certain rooms. Okay. The other thing is other mouse over effects like this tree turns into a pot plant. And of course, the other thing is getting like the pop-up image component working with the polygons as well. So we've got quite a bit to cover today, and I'm hoping that you'll all find something of interest. Now, what you've probably noticed is that I just double-clicked and opened the HTML page from the output folder. Now, here's another little tip. If you've got Safari, if you're on the Mac, what you can do is if you go to Safari Preferences and go to Advanced, you can select the Show Desktop menu, the Develop menu, and then that will do exactly that. When we go up to there, we've got the Develop menu, and then you can select Disable Local File Restrictions, and that will enable you to just double-click an HTML file and go. Right, now there are obviously ways that you can do this for the other browsers, but anyway, I digress. But yeah, this is the way I've it set up, so I can open without using internet or web servers. Right, so let's start then. I'm going to open Pano 2 VR. Okay, I'll actually stop that and start a new one. So let's start from scratch. Here we go. So this is Pano 2 VR. I'm going to use the add input button. There's various ways you can add images, but I'm going to use this one. I'm going to go to the hotspots, and I'm going to select the garden up and summer house up. All right, so adding those to the project. And there we go. Now, the first thing I want to do is just set my viewing parameters, because every time I open this, I don't want to keep having to rotate. So I'm just going to set that, and let's set that. That will speed things up no end. Right, okay. I'm going to add some Polygon hotspots. So I'm going to go to Polygon mode, add a hotspot around the door handle, and I'm going to drag in the node that I want it to link to. And then I can hold down the command key, which is my default view, which is fine, and go. And I'm going to do something similar to go back. So again, I'm going to add a polygon around the door handle here. Okay, and let's drag that into there. And again, that's got the correct view, so that's fine. Right, so that's just a couple of polygons. I'm going to add another polygon around this window. And this is the one that I'm going to use to open a web page. So, first thing though is the floating tooltip. So this will open up a web page, but what I want you to do is be able to see the tooltip. So let's just give this a title. So open web page, and let's just output. Save the project, and away we go. Right, this won't take too long. Okay, done. Now the thing is, on Polygon straight away, you actually get the default tooltip. So what I need to do is go under the HTML5 output, go to the Hotspots tab, and deselect tooltips. yeah, hotspot text box. Then I'm going to open up a skin, and I'm going to add a text box, which is going to be our floating one. All right. Now, for this to track the mouse, we need to scroll down and go to the modifiers. If I double click, you'll see that we've got target, move X, and the source will be the mouse X. So it's going to move it in the X axis with the mouse. And we just do the same thing again, but this time around, move Y with mouse Y. Okay. If we preview this, you'll see that there we go. We've got a text box that's tracking the mouse. Now, the mouse is position in the skin is at 0.00 or location 00. So if I select the text box, let's just give it an idea of FTT, so floating tooltip. If I say its position to 00 and the mouse's home position is 00, what we're going to get is that the top left-hand corner is going to be on top of the mouse pointer. So to make it look better, what I'm going to do is the actual size of the text box is 100 pixels wide. So to move it halfway across, I'm going to go minus 50 pixels. And I'm going to take it minus 50 pixels up. And at that point, it goes off screen. As it goes off screen, I can then go to view and show off canvas elements. So you can see, I don't know if you can, but there's this yellow line here, which is representing the edge of the skin editor window. And this is now the off canvas element. So now when we show this, you'll see that the text box is in the right place. Okay, right. Now what we need this to do is pick up the Hotspots title. So what we're going to do is go down to the text that shows, I'm going to delete that. And here is our button that's insert placeholder. Now a placeholder obviously reads text from elsewhere in the software and brings it in. So in this case, I'm going to select Hotspots and read the text from the hotspot title. And the placeholder is $brackets, HS close brackets. Okay. So if we close, save, I'm going to save the skin to the project. Just called it skin. There we go. And then I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut. So Control Option G on the PC, Option Command G on the Mac. Actually, that's Control Alt. It's the same key as the option on the Mac, right? Okay, so there we go. So when I hover over now, you can see that that text is showing. Okay, obviously the problem is that the text box is always showing, and I don't want it to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the ID of the Polygon hotspot to web. All right. Actually, no, I won't. I'll leave that. Sorry. All right. What I'm going to do is go back to the skin and set the hotspot proxy ID. Here we go, to asterisk. Now, the reason for doing that is an asterisk is a wildcard. Now, you may remember if you saw in the last webinar that what we're actually doing is creating a link between this Polygon hotspot, or it could be a point hotspot, but any hotspot, we can use the ID. And if it matches the ID in the skin element, whatever actions are in here, that skin element will do when we hover over that hotspot. So because I want this to work with multiple hotspots, I'm going to give it the wildcard. There we go. So this will now work with any hotspot. So what I'm going to do now is deselect visible, and I'm going to say when mouse over equals true, visible true. Okay, so that's the logic. So what we should get is no more text box until I hover inside the polygon. Okay, right. Now, there's a slight problem with this, and that is if I was to add another polygon here, right, and put no title in there, what's going to happen is you're going to see a blank one as well as the one that I want to show. And I don't want to see a tooltip if the title is blank, right? So what we're going to do is go back into the skin, and we're going to add to the logic block. So here we've got the condition mouse over equals true. But what I'm going to do is say placeholders, hotspots, and hotspot title. And I'm going to say if the hotspot title doesn't equal blank, i.e. there's something in there, to show it. So the condition, so the conditions are mouse over, and if the hotspot has a title, then we will see the text box. All right, so let's see if that works. Which it does. You can see that we're entering in by the mouse cursor, changing to a hand, but we only see the text box if there is a title. Okay, cool. Now what I want to do is just tidy this up a little bit, make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to deselect the background. I'm going to change the border to white. I'm going to change the text to white. And I'm also going to auto size it. And I'm going to give it a bit of a radius. So let's bend the edges. So let's take that to say 10. And let's save, generate, and see what that looks like. That's starting to look a little bit better. I could do with a bit of padding either side, so let's just do that. So again, select the text box, whiz down to padding, deselect for linking values. I only want the left and right set to say 4 pixels. Again, save, keyboard shortcut, save, and G for generate. And here we go. All right, so yeah, that's looking a little bit better, and we don't get one there. Right, okay, so that's basically how to build a floating tooltip. Now, as you can see, I've got the hand cursor there, but no tooltip. So I'm going to put in, well, let's delete that. That one, didn't need that. So let's go to this hotspot and give it the title of All right, okay, so that's quite cool. Let's do that. And we can see that there. All right, okay. Okay, now I did say this is going to open a web page. Now, if we go to the Polygon hotspot and we'll type in a URL, so let's go http on com. Right. Now, if I do that without any other work, when we click on it, we open our website, but in a new tab. All right. The request was to be able to open the website within inside the player. So what I'm going to do is use the component, the web component. So I'm just going to hide the tooltip from the canvas so it doesn't confuse things. I'm also going to deselect show off canvas items so I can see the edges. And I'm going to open up the components toolbox, and we're going to go for the web component. So double click to add it to the skin. Now again, to help out, I'm just going to deselect so I don't see anything in the canvas, because what I want to do is add a container. Here we go. And I'm going to give the container the ID of open web. All right. And again, what we're going to do is give it a hotspot proxy, but this time around, I'm going to call it web. All right. Because I only want this to work if it's going to go to a Polygon that's going to use a website or open a website. Okay, so I've now created this link between this Polygon and this container. So we've got that web. So that's the hotspot proxy ID set up. Now, the component itself is designed to work with the point hotspot. So therefore, we've got this point hotspot and we've got the point hotspot image. I'm going to make it work with the Polygon. So the way we do that is just select all of the actions. I'm going to keyboard shortcut for copy. I'm going to open up the or select the container and then keyboard shortcut and paste. All right. And then I'm going to deselect. Now, the issue that I've got, and this is a bit of a gotcha, so you've got to take this on board, is that with a Polygon hotspot, if you've got anything in the target URL, it will automatically open up a new page or a tab. So we can't put this data in there. So what we need to do is copy that and paste it into the description, and then we can delete it from there. So when the Polygon is clicked, it won't try and open a new page. Okay. But what that does mean is if we now go back to the container with those actions that we had, you'll see that it's using the action still to open up the hotspots URL. So now what I've got to do is change that to $HD, so it's opening up the data from the hotspots description. Okay, and we need to do the same for when we open it up in the player, because we're using an iframe. So if I double click, you'll see that the value is an iframe, so I can open up the code. All right, and then you can see the source is $HU. I'm going to change that to $HD to match, so it takes the data from the description text field. Okay, so let's save, close, and publish to see how far we've got with this. If we go over and click, we see that we open up in a new tab or new web page. Now, why is that? That's because the component itself has a skin configuration option. And because we use the component, and here you can see the skin configuration button is active. So when I click this, it says open URL in iframe. If we now select that and publish or create the output, what should happen is we now get the web page inside the player, and it will be responsive as well. So there you go. So that's how to add a pop-up web page using polygons. Obviously, this can work with point hotspots, but you don't have to do anything like this, because obviously the component is designed to work with a hotspot, a point hotspot. Okay, so that's that. What I want to do now is show you about how to use the same sort of trick, but for image hotspots. So if I go back to the project, what I'm going to do is whiz it round. Now I've got this shed, so I'm making sure that I'm in Polygon viewer mode, and I'm going to draw around this shed like this. All right. Okay, and we're going to call this, I don't know, let's just call this image. This is now going to open up an image. Again, I'm going to go back to the skin, hide everything, so there's nothing in the way, and I'm going to open up the components toolbox, double click, and add the image pop-up component. Now, again, like the other component, it's designed for a point hotspot, so therefore we've got a hotspot template and all the gubbins that you see when it's published or created. So what I'm going to do is, again, select all of the actions, okay, copy them, and I'm going to grab another container, and we're going to paste those actions in that container. All right, I'm going to give the container a logical name, or a name, could be anything you like, but I'm just going to call it image. Actually, control. All right, okay. When I typed image pop-up, you would have seen a yellow triangle at this point, and that's because I was duplicating the ID. So there's another element in the skin with that same ID. Didn't want to do that, so I did control on the end. Okay, now we've called this polygon or this hotspot ID image. So what I'm going to do is copy that, go back to the skin, and under the hotspot proxy ID, put in image. So this now links to the container. I can now delete the point hotspot, and we're almost good to go, because what's going to happen is right, basically when you select a point hotspot type of image, you select the image here in the link URL. Now, of course, with a Polygon hotspot, you only have the options for URL or toolnode. So what we have to do is manually add the image to the project. And how you do that is you select the Advanced tab, scroll right to the bottom, and we can add assets, so files and folders. So I'm going to add a file, and the image I'm going to pop up is going to be, this PNG. All right, so that's going to be the image. It's a PNG. All right, now, and what I'm going to do is also add this in the description. So this is a plant dot, and that's a JPEG. Okay, so that's the image I'm adding to the project, and that's the description, is the image file. All right, I'm just going to add a title, so let's do image as a title. Okay. Right. So let's go back to the skin. Oh, hang on. He says, let's go back to the skin. And here is my image control. And here are the two actions. Now, again, like we did before, because the hotspot would be using the hotspot's URL, we're now using the hotspot's description. So we modified the HU to HD. All right. Now, the thing here is the file path is going to be slightly wrong, because if we save the skin, if I look at the output, okay, you'll see that here's the assets and here's my plant.jpg, but the file path, it needs assets in front of it, or it won't show. So I can either put assets in the container, or I can put it here. So that's the path to the image. Right. So now when I output, what should happen, if I click it, we get the image pop up. Here we go. And that's how to modify that to pop up an image. So that's the thing. The only thing that you're doing more than a pop-up component is you're having to put the file path and to the image in the description and add it manually under the assets. Okay, so that's really the only thing you're doing. Right. That said, I want to do a similar thing this time, but I want to pop up a video. So again, what we're going to do is go to the skin, hide everything that I don't want to see, go to the components toolbox, and I'm going to add, you can add Vimeo or YouTube. I'm going to double click and add a YouTube video. All right, so here are all the components that make that up. So again, I'm going to hide them all, so my skin's not cluttered or got anything in there at all. And as we did before, add a container, and I'm going to call this up YouTube video. All right, so that's what that's going to be called. And I'm going to select the point hotspot, and again, same thing, select all the actions, keyboard shortcut to copy, select that container, and keyboard shortcut to paste. All right, so that's basically that's set up. Now I can now delete the point hotspot, and what we need to do obviously is set up again our hotspot proxy. So I need to add a Polygon hotspot, so let's add it to this window. All right, let's just call this YT for YouTube. Okay, leave it at URL. And what we need to do is in the description is add the video's URL. Now with YouTube and Vimeo, you don't actually add the full URL. So here, let's just have a look. Here's a YouTube video. What we're interested in is the last few digits. Okay, so that's what we're interested in. So let's just grab that and put that into the description. Probably get rid of that underscore. So that is the video's short code, and that's all we need. The reason why we only need this is because the video element, all right, so let's just make that a bit bigger so you can see the YouTube, the video element is actually set to display YouTube videos. So it knows the URL, it's got all that information already. The only thing it doesn't know is the video short code. All right. So with all that said, what should happen now is that when I hover over and click, nothing's happening. Why isn't anything happening? Because I put YT there, and I need to go back to the container and add the hotspot proxy ID to YT. So that now makes the link between that Polygon and this container. And we're still not going. Right, okay. I wonder if it's because it did actually need that underscore. Let me try. No. All right, okay. Boom. Right. I think what I'll do is just go to YouTube and see if I can find a another video. So let's just do this just in case I okay, so let's go in here. Let's pick one of our videos. This one, let's put it on pause, right button click, copy URL, and let's paste that in there. Okay, that seems a better one. So that's the short code. It's in the description. Let's go to here. Okay, that probably didn't need to probably do any of that. I forgot to the value. If you look, it's still looking under the URL. Right. So if I put that $HD, that should feed, or that should copy the, or use this information. Right. My apologies. I'll just put it down to nerves. Here we go. Boom. And that's working. There we go. So yeah. So just to recap, because the video element is already set to YouTube, we don't need to put the whole URL or the short the whole URL for the video. We only need to put in the short code, and that is true for the Vimeo as well. If you look at a Vimeo URL, so there's the like the HTTPS, that's the URL. We only need this short code at the back. All right. Okay. All right. Actually, interesting. Whilst we're here, I'm going to see if it did actually need that underscore, because that's, I'm not sure if we did or not, but let's just try it. It looked a bit odd. And we did. Okay. So that underscore was part of the code. Okay. Right. All right. So that's adding Polygon or rather video pop-ups and things like that, and the image pop-up as well. Right. The other thing I want to go on to is how to get a little bit more interactive. So again, under polygons, we're going to add another polygon area. And what we're going to do is we're going to call this air pump. Hang on. That's the name of the, or actually, no, what I'm going to do is put that here. And there's a perfectly good reason for this. And I'm going to just use a little bit of HTML formatting. So I'm just going to make that bold. All right. Because I want the title and everything to be in this description text box. So let's just say this is an air pump. This is an air pump. So that's the description and everything else of this slide out we're going to make. All right. So let's go into the skin. And again, let's collapse everything and hide everything. And let's just give myself a little bit more real estate to play with. And let's make this slide out information. So I'm going to add a rectangle. I'm going to make it 150 by 200. And what I'm going to do is say, right, we need a text box for it. So I'm going to put a text box in there. So this would be the text box displaying the information. Okay. Right. So I'm going to get rid of the border and get rid of the background because the rectangle is white. And the formatting I'm going to do is make it word wrap, so the text wraps around, and if it's too long, introduce scroll bars. And I also want the text to start from the left hand side. I also want the text to be white as well. He says, no, I don't, I want it black. All right. Okay, that matches everything else. Right. Okay, so that's my text. Okay, so let's just have a quick look what we got. So there it is. There's the text box. Nothing special. Putting a text box within a rectangle means I can add lots of padding if I want to. And I'm going to be introducing a new element, an image element to this. So that's why I'm not just using a text box on its own. I'm putting the text box into the rectangle. So let's just do that. So we've got rectangle 1 with text box 1. Again, we can give the rectangle a more meaningful name. So let's just call it slide out. Text box one. Well, I'll leave it at text box one for the second. Okay, so that's all that. Now, what we want this to do is on mouse over the Polygon hotspot is display all this text. So again, I'm going to add another container. Oh, actually, no, I'm not. In the slide out, I'm going to set this to, let's have a think. Right, I'm going to set this to use the asterisk, so the wildcard. So whatever happens now, every time I hover over a point, a Polygon hotspot or a point hotspot, this will activate any of the actions that we're going to use. Okay, so my first action is going to be on mouse enter. I want it to set the value of the hotspots description. So $ brackets HD. I'm going to set that to the text box 1. Okay. All right, so that should do that as of now. So let's generate the output. And I hover over it, it's not. Okay, it's working well. So let's go back to the slide out. Got the mouse enter set value $HD to text box 1. Not working. Right, okay, let me just clear the cache and re-output. Okay, I can't see what I'm doing wrong for the second. Let's have a quick recap. So I've got the description. It's a polygon. It's got the description text. So the slide out itself is setting the mouse enter set value $HD to text box 1. Okay, let's just use the there we go. Right, okay, so that's obviously working. I don't know why the let's just check that out. Let's put the asterisk back in there. I take it was an asterisk I put in. It may not have been. Let's just check that again. There we go. So yeah, it's probably, I don't know what I actually put into the hotspot proxy ID. That actually looks like something completely different. It may have been, I just may have put a dot in there or something like that. But basically, I've now got the asterisk, which is the wildcard. Breathe. Okay, so that's my text box. What I want to do now is add a image element. I want this slide out to show an image as well. Okay, so just going to add an external loader to this. And again, what we're going to do is say mouse enter. All right, set value. And the value is going to be, now I've got nothing to add just yet. So what I'm going to do is just close the skin quickly and go down to the assets, and I'm going to add the image I want it to load. So I'm going to get it to load this air pump ping. All right, so that's the air pump ping. Now, as we remember from our last one, the actual file path to this is going to be assets air_pump.png. All right, so that's that. So what I want to do here is in the target, type in assets / All right, so there's the file path. Now I'm using the target because I'm already using the description and I want to use the title for something else. Okay, so what I need to remember is that this is the hotspot target. So this is going to be using the placeholder $HT to view it. Okay, so let's go back to our slide out and back to that action. So it's going to be mouse enter set value. So that's going to be $ brackets, he says, brackets UT. UT. Here we go. And that is going to be for external 1. Okay. Right. Let's just check this out and see if it works. Right. Okay. Let's clear empty caches. No. Okay. Let's see what I've done wrong. Right. So we've got, make sure I've spelled everything right, which air pump, right, and the action is going to be mouse enter set value. I did this before. I will say this. Moments before we came on air, I said to Thomas, I'm having a meltdown, I can't get it to work. Reason being is because it's HT for hotspot template, not UT for user data title. Sorry, that is definitely down to me. So yeah, I'll take that one. Right, boom, it works. There we go. So there's the image popping up. Now, as you can see, it's huge. What we need to do is go back into the external element and have a look at content scaling. At the moment, it's none, so it's displaying the image at its physical size. I'm going to set it to min, so it's just going to fill the window. I'm also going to set the alignment so it's central of the external loader. All right, so let's just have a look. When I hover over, yay, there's my image. All right, so that's quite cool. Right, now I did say this is going to be a pop out, so what I'm going to do is do exactly that. So let's set this, so let's get it off the screen. So let's minus 110 pixels. He says, how wide is this? 150. All right, so minus 160 pixels, and we'll have 10 pixels down from the top. Okay, again, what we'll do is go into the tools of view, show off screen elements. So you can see this is the edge of the skin editor, and this is the elements that are off screen. And what I'm going to do is under its position, set it so when we mouse over is true, I'm going to set that so it's 10 pixels within inside of the skin editor. And I'll tell you what we'll also do is add a transition, because at the moment when we hover over it will just appear. If I add a transition and set that to 0.5 of a second, it will take half a second to slide in and out. Let's just save that. Again, let's generate the output. And there we go. So that's their air pump going in and out. Right. Okay. Now, again, I can make this look a little bit better. I can make it look like 100 times better, to be honest. And what we can do is set the background to, say, black, and give it some transparency, 75. I can set a radius of, say, 10 to give it some curved edges. There we go. And what else do we want to do? If I go to the external loader, I'm going to get rid of its background. And if we go to the text box, I'm going to set the text to white. And that should improve the aesthetics, as it were. So let's just have a quick look. And there we go. All right. So that's all quite cool. Right. Okay. So that's adding a slide out effect. Right. Okay. Let's now look at the effect with the door. How did I do that? Right. Now, what I'm going to do is just go to my folder, project folder. Now, what I did is I took two panoramas. Now, I took this on a pano head, and what I did was, if we have a look at the pano, I took 4 around and with the door shut. And on the last one, I opened the doors and took just yet one image of with the doors open. Okay. Then in PT GUI, which is what I was using for stitching, I stitched with everything with the doors shut. And then I just changed that one image. I didn't change any of the settings in PT GUI, and just exported the image with the doors open. So I've got this panorama, and it also made this one. All right. So that is the one I'm going to add to my project. Boom. All right. So that's in. So I want just the doors open. Now, I could synchronize the two panoramas and switch between two panoramas, but hey, that's boring. And not only that, it's lots of bandwidth, especially if the panoramas of of quite high quality. So what we're going to do is just use the door image. So again, I'm going to switch, or I'll say again, I'm going to switch to patch mode, double click, and I'm going to set a size of a patch to there. And I'm just going to change its aspect ratio so I get the doors in. I'm just going to reposition that. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the format to PNG. If you prefer a particular format, you can change it, right button click, and then save that as default. I use PSB because I don't know what size panoramas I'm doing when I'm doing patches, so I use PSB. But you can change to whatever file type you want, and then right button click and set that as the default, so you don't have to keep doing that. Right, I'm going to extract this patch. He says, come on. There it is. Not going to do anything with it just yet, so I'm just going to close Photoshop. And what I'm going to do now is go to the list view. I'm going to right button click and copy. I'm going to go to the panorama that I will be keeping. The list view, you can see all the polygons that we've set in here already. I'm going to right button click and click paste. And that's now adding the patch. You can see the doors now being perfectly overlaid. All right. Now what I'm going to do here is just get rid of this panorama. I don't need it. It was just a donor for the door. So I'm just going to remove that and pop, gone. Right. Okay, so here we are. We're back. So it's a patch. What I'm going to do is if I select the patch, you'll see that the properties panel changes to the properties of the patch. And I'm going to convert the patch to an image. And it's convert to image. Are you sure? Now, this is the reason why I chose ping and not left as a PSB, because, you know, PSBs are not recognized as a web safe format. PNGs are. So this is it. If I had exported this as a PSB, when it converts it, it would have converted it to a JPEG. I want it to be a PNG, so that's why I set PNG from the format. All right, so it is now a pinned image. Okay, so if we were to just go back to the output and export this, you'll see that there's the pinned image. Now it has issues. You can see where the doors were open, we got this shadowing all going on. So that's why I wanted to ping, because what I want to do is if we go into the output folder, all right, rather, if we have a look at the patches, you'll see that there's my patch. If I open with Photoshop, I'm going to add a, oh, he says, let's add a layer mask, brush, zoom in a little bit. Now, I'm not going to be very precise on this. You guys can be a lot more precise. I'm just deleting with using a feather. All right, so I'm just getting rid of all the main bits. So yeah, I'm just doing this really, really quickly. All right, okay. I want to get right to the very edge here. Oh, that's too much. Never mind. But you get the gist. All right, so there we go. So that's the patch, and I'm going to file, export as ping. Yeah, and it's just going to replace that. Off, done. Right, I don't need to save that. So now my patch has got a bit of transparency. If I click here and open this, you'll see, oh, it's there. Hang on, let's what we're doing, let's reload the image, rebuild, and develop empty caches. This is something that Photoshop does very badly. It caches everything. You see, I had to empty the caches, and now that all that's gone, so we've now got the door open. All right, so okay, so that's our image. But one of the things you would have noticed is on open, we're showing the pinned image. What I want it to be is I want it to work differently. I want it to work the reverse. I want it to be hidden, and on mouse over, show. So again, what I'm going to do is let's just get rid of all of these other bits in the skin. Let's put the view back to, so I'm seeing the canvas. I'm going to add another container, and I'm just going to call this rollover. Okay. And what I'm going to do, he says, is I'm going to give this a action, and the action is going to be on node change. Right now, this action gets triggered when you first open and every time you change a node. All right, I'm going to go to media, and we're going to say visibility, and I'm going to hide the media. All right, I'm going to hide it very quickly. Now, I haven't done it yet, so I'm going to just click OK to that, go back to the project, and under the media, I'm going to call this roll underscore door. All right. Okay. And so I've now got an ID to work with. So again, if we go back to the action, so no change media visibility. So I'm going to hide the media, and I'm going to hide the media roll door. Right. Now the problem is, if I've got more than one of these, I'm going to need a container for every one, or at least an action within this container for every one. But I can use the wildcard. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to put dot asterisk, making sure it is an asterisk, of course. There we go. So, and now that is a wildcard. So anything, any image, any pinned image that starts with the ID of role will be hidden. Okay, so that's quite cool. So let's just prove that fact. So let's just open up, published, and my door's gone off. All right. Now, as you can see, we've got an issue here, but we'll fix that afterwards. I don't want to lose my track with this. Okay, so that there's the pinned image that's hidden. Now, what I want to do is the Polygon hotspot. I'm going to do what we did before. I'm going to type in the name, and it's going to be door. Right. And I'm just going to change the ID to roll. All right. Okay. So basically, any polygon that's going to have the ID of role is going to work with what we're doing. All right. So let's go back to the skin. I'm sorry, there seems to be a lot of backwards and forwards. I do apologize for that. So the hotspot proxy ID is going to be role. All right. So when we enter a hotspot that's got role, it'll activate all these actions. So at the moment, I don't actually have an action. All I've got is on node change to hide any of the visible pinned images. So what I want to do is have mouse enter, back to media. All right. Show media. Excuse me. I want to give it a delay of half a second. And the target is going to be, now I could actually just click roll and roll door. But because I want it to pick up that from the polygon, what we're going to do is in brackets, and this is going to be H for hotspot, D for description. Okay. So that's what it's going to do. It's going to show that image. So let's just see how far we've got with this at the moment. So when I roll into the polygon, it's showing that image. So what I need to do is just add an action to hide it when we roll out. So what I do is select the action. I can use keyboard shortcut copy and paste. This time around, we just modify it to mouse leave and hide. Okay, so let's save, generate, close, up, generate, and now we've got the door opening. And because it's a polygon hotspot that's already opening the node, when we click it, we change nodes. There we go. So that's it. So you've now got your door open and closed effect. Right, now what is really annoying is this sliding thing going in and out. Right, okay, so I'm going to go back to this sliding thing, the sliding information. And let's see where I'll put it. Open web, image pop-up control. Was that the one? No. Oh, all right. I tell you what, let's move on. I'll come back to that afterwards, but let's move on. Now, the reason why I want to move on is because I want to show you why we set up all of these hotspot proxies and everything else for the image, and how quick now, once you've set it up once, you can now do more images. So again, I'm going to double click. He says, let's go into patch mode, double click to add a patch, resize it. I'm going to change its aspect ratio so I can take out the this hedge, and I'm going to extract, but I need to change this to a PNG first, as said before. I'm going to extract the image. Okay, so here's the image, and in Photoshop we've got this nice little tool, this lasso tool. I'm just going to whiz around here. Again, I'm not doing anything precisely. I'm going to click right button click, fill, and I'm going to use the content aware, and that's going to zap out the bush. All right, so I'm now going to go to my project folder, and I'm going to drag in this PNG image of a plant. There we go. So that's that, and let's just resize that, position that, and there it is. All right, so now let's file, export, quick export as ping, and save, replace. So that should replace that one. Okay, so that's now replace that. You can see that there's that image there now. All right, now what I'm going to do, as I said before, is we're going to convert this patch into an image. So select the patch, convert to an image, say yes. Now remember what I said, anything that starts with a roll, all right, will get hidden because of that no changed action. All right, so that will hide on open. So let's just have a quick look at this. And here it is, the things hidden. So now what we just need to do is add a polygon. So let's select polygon. I'm going to quickly draw around the bush. That's the whole idea of the polygon, because not only that, you can resize the area. So it's actually quite good for that. And I'm going to type in roll underscore plant. And theoretically, that's all I needed to do to get it to work, he says. Why is that working? Roll over. So roll .ohd. So .ohd roll, right, okay, so let's just make sure that I've got, let's copy that and put that into here. That's it, right. And again, just clear the cache in Safari. I may not use Safari next time, he says. Now, no, okay. That's another great one. Right, okay, let's try and see. Let's see if we can bug track this then. Right, so why is that not working? Right, I'll tell you why that's not working. I've just spotted it straight away, because of the hotspot proxy needs to be role, so it can interact with the, there we go, job done. All right, so yeah, I think that's quite a lot of things we've covered today. Probably too much really for one screencast, but I hope you enjoyed it. And what I'm going to do now is introduce Karen. As I said, from this point onwards, we're not accepting any more questions, and you know, and hopefully Karen can read out some questions that you've already asked. Over to you, Karen.
Hi there, can you guys hear me? Everyone, am I coming through loud and clear?
You are. 555.
Cool. All right. So our first question from Thomas, he wants to know. No, not our Thomas.
Oh, thank God for that, because he should know. Right, go on.
He wants to know, what is the best method to deal with Polygon hotspots on mobile devices where you don't have a hover?
Right, well, you just got to think of it as click. Yeah, just got to think of it as a click. So, you know, obviously as there's no hovering and out, but on a mobile device, if you put your finger over the polygon and then slide it off, that's the mouse enter, mouse leave. If you tap it, that's the click. All right. But what you could do is not actually get the polygon to have any actions within the polygon, link it to a container, right? This is what I'm thinking. And then on mouse over, show, say, a thumbnail image. And then you could actually have the action of double click, go to next panorama or open next panorama. So you could have some instructions. So if somebody touched the polygon, you'd see the preview image, and only when they double tapped it, then you would go on. So there's various ways you could do that, but really mobile devices, yeah, use point hotspots. But no, polys, yeah, so that's the way that you can do it with polys.
Okay.
Next.
Yasir wants to know, how do you control an animated ping as a custom image? So how do you turn that? How do you start and stop it?
Well, an animated ping is just basically as soon as it shows, it starts to animate. There is no control over it. So it's a bit like an animated GIF as well. As soon as it's visible, it starts to animate. What you could do is have a JPEG of it and then the animated ping underneath it. So when you hover over the JPEG hides the animation and the animated ping comes up behind it and starts to work. But basically, as soon as the ping is showing, it's like if you grabbed your ping and dropped it into a web browser, it would start to animate straight away. That is what it's going to be like within Pano 2 VR.
Okay.
All right.
And the last question of the day comes from Raphael, and he wants to know if there is a way to debug issues. Like, so, you know, we saw that you used $HU instead of $HD, but so how do you debug that? You know, what's the best way?
Right. Don't be an idiot like me.
No, I think it's valid. I do it myself all the time.
It is a valid question, and I'm pleased to say that there's been extensive work done for version 7 for debugging. The skin editor's got a lot of debugging tools in there. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say because it's like hush hush, but no, I don't think it is. But no, we've concentrated a lot more in the skin editor for making it more, shall we say, developer friendly or user friendly. I say developer. I often get from people saying, "Oh, I'm not a developer. I'm a photographer. I can't use Pano 2 VR." As you can see, right, everything is drag and drop and select with menus. The only time it's not is with these placeholders. Now, if you're in any doubt with the placeholder, right, if you go to our website, here it is, right, go to documentation, Pano, let's just select Pano 2 VR. If you go right to the bottom of the reference, and it's got a list of placeholders, and it's all there and explained. So trouble is because I tend to know things, I tend to get confused. You know, when I was looking at this, I'm thinking, URL. Hence why I was doing $UD, because I'm thinking I'm replacing the URL. So that's where the U is coming from. When I'm working on my own and there's no pressure of doing a webinar, then there's, you know, it's easy. But you just have to think that $U is anything in the user data. So UD would be user data. UT is user data title. But with a hotspot, it begins with an H. So HU would be, you know, hotspot URL. HT would be hotspot target. So, yeah. But there's the list of placeholders. But all I can say is, you know, version 7 will blow your socks off. So, yeah, all buy it.
And I think that you can also use your web browser's console and check the errors there.
Right. Yeah. Of course you can. Right. Okay. Yeah. If for argument's sake you hang on, let's do something. I'm opening an image. If I'm using Safari, which is probably not the best for doing this, but it has a show web inspector, and which they've just recently changed, which is confusing me. But you can see that you've got elements. You can look at certain things. Here, because I've deleted a few things, we've got 404 not found. So if I've got something that's not showing, you can open up your website, your web error console, and you can view that. Now, I do believe we've got a page somewhere on our website. Just search for it using the web or browser error console, and that becomes a really good tool. So yeah, I think on the document it covers, I think the document's a bit old now, but it does cover like Firefox, Chrome, and Internet Explorer, I think, or Edge. I can't remember, but yeah, definitely that's a good tool. If you open up and it's all gone a bit squiffy, you know, it says 404, it can't find something, or you click on an image and you get a broken image symbol, definitely use the the browser error console for that. Okay.
So we have one last question. This will be our last question.
Go on in.
And
hit me.
Landa wants to know, can you trigger the door opening can you trigger the door opening when it appears in the middle of the screen? So when you have the panorama in the middle of the screen, can you open it up? It says like minus or, you know,
you can.
minus or 20 degrees, minus
right,
20
okay.
degrees.
You can. The actual answer to this is you can. What I'm going to say to you is at the moment, what we have to do, right, and is if you look, we can see these pan and tilt angles being updated as we move. So what you do have to do is have a logic block that says, more than 74 and less than 90 show element, and it becomes, and you might need that for the tilt as well. And it's doable. There's lots of projects within the forum that do exactly this. All right. But again, in version 7, we've made this easier. In version 7, we just say, how many degrees do you want to show and hide something? So what percentage? So it could be that you want 10 degrees from the left and 90 degrees, and within that area of the screen, you can get something to move. So it's going to be much better. I'd rather wait when it's easy, and of course when we bring out version 7, hey, there's going to be lots of new webinars, so to be walking you through it all. But yeah, it is doable now. If you want to know how to do it, send in an email or check out the forum, because that information is there. Next.
Cool. That's it. That's our last question. So I guess that's the end of this webinar.
Excellent. All right. Well, it just leaves me to say thank you for all joining us from, me, Karen, and the rest of the team. And as always, stay safe, peoples, and look out for the next one.
Bye.
Cheers then. Bye.